Welcome to KidSketch. We are heading south across the San Diego Bay to the small city of Coronado, where we find the famous Hotel del Coronado, a beautiful wooden structure in the Victorian Queen Anne style. When it opened in 1888, it was the single largest hotel in the world. When Hotel del Coronado debuted, it was considered a technological marvel. Electricity was still a novelty in 1888, and the Del was thought to be one of the largest buildings in the country to have been electrified. The Del also supplied electricity to the city of Coronado. Other technological assets included steam-powered hydraulic elevators, among the first in the country, a state-of-the-art fire sprinkler system, and telephone service, which had reached San Diego only 7 years earlier. The original grounds had many amenities, including an Olympic-sized saltwater pool, tennis courts, a Japanese tea garden, an ostrich farm, billiards, and bowling alleys. While there are so many areas to admire, we're going to focus on the ballroom with its soaring red-roofed signature Victorian turret. Capped with an exterior walkway and an enormous American flag, the shingled ballroom tower also features a row of double-hung windows, along with 2 tiers of windowed dormers. In the early days, the underside of the roof formed the interior ceiling of the ballroom, and the windows provided light and ventilation for visitors below. But by the mid-20th century, fashion and technology dictated a less cavernous interior space. Among other things, the acoustics was a real problem, and so they lowered the ceiling. Today, the area hidden between the ceiling and the roof contains remnants of days gone by, including an interior balcony from which early guests viewed the ballroom activities below while enjoying the ocean vista provided by those double-hung windows. Although it's possible to climb to the inside of the top of the turret via a narrow circular staircase, which provides access to that exterior walkway 150 feet above ground, this area was never meant for public use. It's an intriguing climb, however, and those lucky enough to make the trip, mostly hotel maintenance workers, are rewarded with a fantastic 360-degree view of Coronado Island, San Diego, and points beyond. A few more interesting facts about the ballroom. In Victorian times, the turret was referred to as the observatory because it offered Pacific views via the double-hung windows in its balcony. Almost 10 stories tall, the Del's turret is featured on navigational charts and has served as a nautical and aeronautical landmark for decades. Today, Hotel del Coronado's turret is famous for its Christmas decorations, which professional steeplejacks attach to its complex roofline every year. And speaking of Christmas decorations, in 1904, the Del made history when it unveiled the world's first electrically lit outdoor living Christmas tree. Holiday lights were strung from the hotel to a nearby Norfolk Island pine tree. And although indoor trees were popular in America by this time, electric Christmas lights were a rarity. Candles were still commonplace. Now, when you see a Christmas tree outside with electric lights, you know that the first tree like this stood outside the Hotel Del. Let's see if we can't sketch one portion of the building, the famous turret. Let's do an overlay, and I can show you how simple our sketch can be. I'll break it down into some easy steps. It's a series of triangles sitting on rectangles. There's the first triangle, and it's sitting on a rectangular base. And the second triangle will truncate its top, and it's sitting on a rectangular base. And then this last triangle, which is like that, we don't see that part, and it's sitting on another rectangular base. And then by adding some shadow, we'll take it from a 2-dimensional rectangle into more of a 3-dimensional cone. And that will be our sketch. We're going to be adding those palm trees that you saw in there. We'll add a couple extra. We'll add some base, perimeter, border, and for the holidays, instead of that American flag, we'll add a little star. And that's our sketch. We're going to start our sketch in pencil. I like to start with a soft pencil like a number 2 the kind that you might use in school. In the early parts of your pencil sketch, try not to choke up on your pencil. It's not like writing. We're sketching and you want to keep your arm loose, you want to keep your hand loose. And for the early lines, try to move from your shoulder or from your elbow. And then later, when we get into more detail, you can work from your wrist. And then the finer details, you would work from your fingers. In starting our sketch, we're going to start over on the left side of our sheet. If you're using one of our Beep sketchbooks, you'll see that I've got it in the horizontal position. If you're using an 8.5 by 11 piece of sketch paper, fold it in half so that it's wider than it is tall. If you're trying to fit the whole drawing onto a full piece of 8.5 by 11, your drawing will be too big. I mean, it won't be too big, but it may take a long time to sketch it. So let's start sketching by drawing a vertical line on about a third of the way in from the left edge. Now make a horizontal line about halfway up. And then let's go halfway up again, about like that. Let's draw this first large triangle. The best way I know to get those angles right, if you're still learning how to see, is to take the angle of your pencil and align it with the edge of the building. This would be the same thing you would do if you were in front of the building. You would hold your pencil in the air and eyeball it. Get that angle, bring it over, and approximate it lightly in pencil. Do the same thing for the other side, and that'll get you started. You see, I didn't take it all the way to the top. I could make it a full triangle, but I'm truncating it. I have sometimes will use my pencil as a scale. I should use this hand and just compare how high versus how wide. And it looks like the height truncated is about the same as the width. So I've got the width is about like that and the height about like that. Tells me I'm a little high. Let's try to make it a little lower then. So you want to make this height about the same as that. And then remember, it's not a real triangle here. It's truncated. That means the top's cut off. All right. So we found a line about halfway up the sheet, and then I went a little too far. So this time, go not quite halfway from this line to the edge of the sheet. It should be a little less than half, a little squat. And then I'll erase what I had there. Now we're going to put the next triangle on. If I had finished this triangle, you would see that that's about the base of the next triangle. So finish your lines. I know we just erased them. Now make another smaller triangle up here. Like about like that. So this has got a little curve to it, and this has a little curve to it. If you were to connect these with straight lines, we can then draw a little extra line. That's that roof eave up there at the top of this cupola. This is called a widow's walk. About halfway down, you can make a horizontal line, but we're actually then going to give it a little curve. So halfway between, make a horizontal line, but curve the edges ever so slightly. Then just below it, another line. And then if you'll just give it some little downward ears, if you will. This is that railing. That gets us started. Let's go to the bottom of this. Now, I'm drawing these at first as if they're cones. You can see in the photo that they're actually segmented. See this first plane, flat plane that's here in front of us? You can lightly draw some lines that are angled, just a little bit angled off of that first line, vertical line you drew. You see it there? And if you'd like, you can erase that line. There's another line. It's way over off to the side. Like, think of them sort of like pieces of pie. They're wide around the outside and they get narrower to the middle. And if you wanted to, you see how they're all radiating from the top of that triangle. Like that. And then how we give it shape is this first one is horizontal. This one is angling over slightly. This one is angling over slightly. And that last one is angling over even more. So we have our big roof cap. The next is, let's find this band of windows. In the old days, there was a sort of a mezzanine level, a walkway up there that people could take some stairs up there inside that space. This is the ballroom. They'd go up there and they could wander around and look at the view. I wish we could still do that. I bet it looks amazing up there. All right, so you could make just the horizontal line and then we're going to segment it, meaning break it into these little panels. There, does yours look like that? You see how I'm filling in the left side as if it were symmetrical with the right. I know it's not in this photo, but it'll be a lot simpler if we go ahead and draw it symmetrical, and then we can erase what we don't want. We're actually going to redesign the building back to 1888 in a couple of areas. All right, that gets us to the bottom of these windows. Now let's get this bottom triangle, which is sort of like a skirt. All right, what are our angles like here? With pretty steep angle. Another way to find it is, how tall is that? Is it about, if we were using our little pencil as a measure? Well, it's a little bit taller than what we did here. You want to try to just eyeball it. And it's interesting to note that because this line is getting closer to where we're standing, we're not seeing so much of the underside of it. It's going to look getting pretty close to horizontal. So, got that line? Let's find these little flares. So from the bottom of that center panel, it flares out like that, both sides. There's actually a bend in it. This one goes out. This one goes out. So going back through that again, we got that first big triangle. We cropped off its top. We divided it into 5 segments like pieces of pie. Straight up from the top of it is basically, it's a box. And then we put a cone on top of it and a little collar. That's the widow's walk. And then we have this band of windows that we'll see segmented, that is broken into 5 pieces. And each one is a little rectangle. This one is a horizontal rectangle. This one slopes down a little on the right. This one slopes down a little on the left. I'm just retracing my steps. Then we have, let's think of it as the bottom of the bell or like a skirt that flares out. Now, if you're ready, we can do this band of windows. And this is where we're going to redesign a little bit, or we're going to go back in time. When the building was built in 1888, these windows, each one of these was actually 3 tall double hung windows. That meant the section at the bottom could slide up or the section at the top could slide down. And at some point, maybe they wanted to emphasize the view more than the ventilation. They took out the 3 windows and put one big window in, and you're seeing them black because they must get a lot of heat gain, and the light must be very intense in the afternoon, no matter what time of year it is. The afternoon sun must be very intense in there, and so they probably wanted to control the light, so they put, think of it as a building with sunglasses on. It's not my favorite modification that they've made in this building, and so for our sketch, we're going to change it because that's what we're allowed to do. So we're going to make this next band. It's going to be a horizontal line. Come down. See the distance you made this orange part of the roof? Come down about the same distance. So use your pencil. In my case, it's the lead and the little wooden part. Come down to that part and then make a horizontal line. There's our band of windows. We can divide it horizontally in half. And if we'd like, let's go ahead and divide it into 3 equal pieces. And I say equal, it's approximate. We're sketching. We're in the field. This next part is receding down just a little bit. You can draw it as if it's perfectly horizontal, or you can turn it down and divide it in half horizontally, and then it gets cut into 3 equal. You'll notice that as we get around the corner, they get closer and closer together. You see how wide these are? These 3 are? These 3 aren't quite as wide, and these 3 aren't wide at all compared to the others. And this last side, really sloping down. And then go ahead and divide it by 3. There's a little something over here. You see how this building turns back. This is probably where we're going to ignore this for now. Maybe just draw one tiny little window. We're going to cover it by that palm tree. All right, so this is the window part that you're seeing that's black, and this is the wooden part, which is solid. Then there's a band that looks like lattice work. So draw a second line below there. And then this is the bottom floor. So this is the big ballroom. And in the old days, the ceiling went way up in here. It didn't go all the way to the top, but it went up in here. They never saw those dormer windows from the inside. That was ventilation for the attic, but the ceiling went way up. Doesn't do that now. They've dropped it so that they can control more things than just the lighting. They're trying to control the acoustics, the sounds of the room. So this bottom of this floor is about the same distance down. So if you need to use your measuring device, that'd be your pencil. And just draw it like that. All right, this is a big open doorway, and it goes from about here, right underneath that segment on the right-hand side, and it goes over. I'm going to make it symmetrical like that. Now, in our photo, it was completely open. It was a warm, sunny day the day I was there and took this picture. But we're not going to leave it a big opening. We're going to close it down because we don't want to sketch all that in as if it's in the shadows, because then that'd be a big dark blob. So I'm going to make it as if it's 6 individual doors. So if you can divide it into 6 individual doors like that, we'll be good to then move on. So see, we've got our big cone-shaped roof. We got our band of windows. We have these doors. Now let's get to this side over here, which are going to make palm trees, and this side over here, which what we're going to put in our sketch is, let's pick up the bushes and then just a couple of horizontal lines. There's a lot of stuff going on in here that's not really important, I think, to our sketch today. We want to emphasize this cool red roofed cone-shaped tower. So we're going to ignore a lot of stuff over here, and we're going to ignore those palm trees. We're going to ignore this palm tree, these 2 palm trees too. So let's see, we need the little planter, which is an extension of this walkway. Draw a line out there. Looks like the palm trees are growing right out of the top of this planter. So let's put our palm tree, our trunk of our palm tree here. See how I'm a little bit over from this window? And then let's just give it a big circle like that. And what we'll be doing is drawing in palm fronds, which are like, sort of like hands raised. They cross each other like that. But let's do a couple other things. Let's draw in some palm trees that aren't there. Let's draw in a smaller palm tree. I'd like to kind of cover up what's happening here, because as I look at that photo, I can't really tell what's going on. So, and it's not as interesting as the whole building is. So let's put a tree in front of it. There's an old saying that Frank Lloyd Wright, a very famous architect, had once said that doctors bury their mistakes and architects plant vines, meaning if you didn't like a part of a building, you planted something over it and kind of covered it up. So that's what we're doing in our sketch. We're adding some trees, some palm trees, and you don't have to make them palm trees. If this is a holiday card and you want to make it a Christmas tree, you can do that as well. Okay, I'm going to say that this is about the edge of our sketch today. All right, let's see what else is in here. Maybe there's another little window here. I'm making this up now. It's not really there. I just think I'd like it. Let's finish up the rest of these. We have some stairs. These are going to be kind of cool in our little sketch. So there's a planter here. We have the palm tree coming out of it. It starts about here. A little rectangle like that. About half. If your door is this tall, your planter's about half of that. And then give us a horizontal line all the way across. The other side, there's the other planter. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to make some little zigzags like that. And a zigzag like this. I'm going to connect them. Those are our stair risers. And what this does for your sketch is it makes it look inviting. Oh, look, I want to go up their steps. I want to go into that building. Really cool. All right, on this other side, we said we'll draw. The planter goes over a little bit. We're going to have see all the shrubbery. what looks like little clouds. Or if you've ever read in the cartoons where somebody's talking and their thoughts are surrounded by these little bubbles. And we'll go over however far we want to take our sketch today. And then there's another little planter above that. So it's just going to be another horizontal line like this. And there's a couple more windows that we can see here. We'll go ahead and draw those in. Again, I'm making them up. And then I'm going to put a base on the edge of the building here. There we go. I'm looking at a couple of things. We're going to go back in and add a few more details. You'll see that the edge of that roof goes over a little bit. Oh, actually, you see what we did? You can fix it if you want. I'm going to fix mine. I really should have made it about like that. You don't have to change yours if you don't want to. I don't want to confuse anybody, but I see that I forgot this edge goes way over. All right, I fixed it. I made this section a little longer, broke it into 3, and broke this into 3. And if that was confusing, don't worry about changing it. But see how it now looks a little more like our photo. Let's work our way back up. There's a couple things I want to add. I'd said that these in the original building from 1888 were actually 1 equals 3. That is, they had 3 double hung windows where we now have 1. So if you want to divide them into 3 equal, see how these lines on the right are getting really close together. That's the way it's supposed to be. These are right in front of us. These are a little farther away. And things that are farther away from us appear smaller, so they appear narrower. And these are farther away still, and they appear smaller still. And then the same with this band of windows. We'll draw them as they are today. I think they're pretty similar to what there was. And then we're going to, you could draw this as you see it here. It's like there's one window and this goes off. Or you can draw it as we've initially laid it out, as if it's very symmetrical. I'm just trying to simplify this. I didn't want to scare you to think that it's a hard building to sketch. All right, this flat panel in front of us has 6 windows in it, so start off by cutting it right in half. It'll be easier. And then divide it into 3 equal windows. 3 equal windows. Do the same thing for this next section. Divide it in half. This is where your lines are getting a little skinnier, closer together. Divide it into 3. Okay. Divide it in half and 3 again. You can sort of see how the edge of the roof flips up. It's hard, I guess it's hard to see because that palm tree is in the way. So trust me, we're going to flip the roof up a little. Do the same thing up here, makes it a little cuter. Sorry. Building like this, I'm not sure it wants to be considered cute. It's to be considered like a grand dame. And a lot of famous people have come here over the century and a half, nearly century and a half. All right, so we've got the base of the building where the ballroom is. We've got the space below it. I think it's currently a bar. One thing that we can add before we worry about the getting out the ink is that there's like a trellis here. Sometimes they have an awning out here that provides shade for everybody sitting here, but right now what we're seeing are the little ends of the trellis, and they look like just like little squares all run along. This is depending on how patient you are. If you want to draw them in like that, go ahead. If your patience is waning, leave them out. We're about ready, drawing that star up on top. Do you know how to draw a star? So the way I draw a star, if this were a watch face, start at 5, go to 12, down to about 7:30, up to 2:30, over to 10, back to 5. There. Now we have them standing up straight. And the edge of our drawing is going to be pretty near the top. And I'm going to take it over to here, I think. I think it might be fun if we were turning these into maybe a holiday card or a gift card. Down here, I'm going to leave room for the grassy area. I have a green pencil or green pen. Hopefully you have a red and a green. I thought it might be fun if you could write your message right here. Like, happy holidays. So what I was thinking of I might do is I'm going to write it in cursive. I know not everybody writes in cursive, so you can use block letters. I'm going to try to write it in cursive so it appears as if it's one line, that it was the line of that terrace that became my greeting. Okay, last, now that I'm taking a good look at it, let's add these windows. It's segmented, just as the roof is segmented. So there's a piece of the window that's closest to us, facing us. We're seeing it full size. And there's a next piece that's not quite as wide, and it's angled back. That happens on both sides. Looks like they have a little wooden bar, mutton bar up there. And when you go to fill it in with your ink pen, there'll be little verticals. That's the railing. And if you notice, it's kind of a little brackets underneath that extend out. Kind of fun to see those. Before we start inking, if you'd like, take your kneaded eraser, if you have one. If not, you could use the eraser at the end of your pencil, but you might want to just lighten the lines just a little. If you're using the eraser at the end of your pencil, you want to be careful. So maybe skip this step if you don't have a kneaded eraser. You see when you press your kneaded eraser against your pencil markings, it pulls up some of the lead and it makes it a little lighter. I'm using my favorite precise
rolling ball pen, extra fine. You could use a V5, a V7. You could, if all you have is a ballpoint pen, you could use a ballpoint pen. I'm going to start back at the beginning where I started the pencil sketch, which is in this area. I might work my way down just from the top, even though we started here on this big roof. And then you know what I'm just now noticing is we forgot to put these little guys in. Oh, they're adorable. Sorry, they're important. All right, get your pencil back, please. Let's do this row first. They're about a third of the way up. Go up about a third. Maybe make a light line. Go up about another third, maybe not quite another third up. Make another line. All right, these are very small. Make a little small, you can make a little small rectangle and put pointy roof on top. Little small rectangle, pointy roof on top. You see as they're moving around the side, we're seeing more of the roof. Here, we're just seeing the end of that little gable. They're called dormers, and it's got a gable roof on it. So these cute little dormers allow some light and ventilation into that upper attic space. So more little rectangles with the roof. And if you can, see off to the side, there's a little triangular wedge right there. This one way over here on this side, you hardly see the window wall. You see more of that triangle, don't you? And if you're finding them a little tricky, just make the square and a little pointy roof because you'll get the idea and the viewer will get the idea too. It's funny, you can even see the ones as they go around the corner. Okay. I'm glad I didn't forget those. They're important. Let's draw them first, though, with our ink pen, because when we go to draw on the side of the roof, we want to make sure that we see the dormers because they stick out a little farther. They're just these cute little things stuck there. We want to make sure that they don't get too big. How could I have forgotten them? They're very character defining. All right, now we can do just the rest of the roof. Sometimes I like to just dash the edges of a roof because the roofs aren't perfectly smooth. You know, they're made up of tiles. These are actually made up of, I think they're made up of asphalt shingles. But there's a little texture in the roof, and so that's why I'm going to make them not quite so smooth. So I'm working my way back up. Doing a little brackets. The underside of that little widow's walk. Up a little for the railing. And here I am I guess I am sort of making it a curve. Even though it's segmented, making it a curved line. It's an open railing, so you'll see those windows through it. Drawing the windows. You're basically tracing over your lines, your pencil lines. And if there's any changes you want to make, you can do it now. If there's any, maybe you drew it one way in a pencil and you want to make a little edit, now's a good time. We didn't segment this little roof, but it's segmented the same way the bigger roof is, like pie shapes going up. I'm not drawing in the flagpole. You can draw on the flagpoles as if your star is on a pole. I think I want to just have my star floating up there. Okay. Then now I'm made it to the top, and let's work our way back down. There's a little extra line at the edge of the roof, and then the windows. I did the tops, and then I'm doing the sills. There's a couple ways that you can draw your windows in. You could draw them in as rectangles like that, or you might find it easier just to do 2 lines between each window. It's a looser gesture drawing when you do them like that, and they'll look fine. Remember, on to the right here, they're very close together. If you did just the vertical lines, you might want a little extra line up at the top of each window. You could take a second, see how it looks, see if you're happy with the direction you're going in. All right, we'll do the skirt roof. See how I'm doing it in sections. If I had done it in sections the first time, I probably wouldn't have gotten in trouble and forgotten that whole extended window. Must have meant I wasn't paying attention to my photo, or if I was out there at the site, it meant I didn't look up enough. I think if you get to a point where you realize you forgot a part, you have what they call artist license, and that is you can change it, your drawing. But we're sketching. You can change your sketch if you want to. All right, now those old windows went all the way top to bottom. So what these guys did is they filled in the bottom of the windows and then combined them. So we're going to do them just as they used to be. I'll try to find out what year those windows were replaced. They were divided. They had like an upper panel, like the ones that are still up here do. They had an upper panel way up near the top. And they were divided in half after that. Aren't they fun? All right, let's, remember when we set these up, we divided that section in 3, and we divided this section in 3. Go ahead and do that again, and that way it's a lot easier then to divide each of those sections again into 3. And then they start getting closer and closer together, and it looks realistic, or at least convincing. I think that's the better way of saying it. They look a little more convincing. Make these on this side angle back, or angle down. There, doesn't that make it a little bit believable? I am going to go ahead and draw this line right up here. I'm totally ignoring that upper level of hotel rooms. I'm going to draw this line, a little bit of an angle, edge of that roof, and then that's all I'm going to draw because I'm going to start the tree pretty soon. First, I think I'll start the floor of this lower level. The floor of the lower level is also the tops of our planters. I'm going to do the stairs. Do the horizontal lines for the stairs. The little zigzag lines are just, they don't necessarily have to meet up. They're just a little bit more convincing that those are stairs. All right, then come down a little bit. I'm not covering the trellis, and then I'll do those doors. Maybe doors have like wooden frames around them. If you have the patience, you can draw this in. Otherwise, make just some horizontal lines. I'm going to go ahead and draw mine in. Whenever you're sketching, you want to, it's best to pay attention to your own patience level and attention span. You want it to be enjoyable. And so if drawing in a lot of detail is not enjoyable, get the overall big picture, capture what it is you wanted to capture, and then the viewer's eye will fill everything else in. You can leave it up to the imagination of the viewer. Looking pretty convincing. Now we're ready for the tree. Maybe these bushes. We'll put the frame around it. And if you have a colored pencil or some colored pens, we'll add some color after that. Okay, so drawing palm trees or any kind of tree, you want to try to identify what's the type of tree. Palm trees, as I mentioned when we were doing it in pencil, it's like it's a series of hands sort of hanging over. Palm fronds grow up out of the top of the tree. There'll be a straight part, and then the feathery, spiky pieces that come out of it. So palm trees want to kind of keep their spiky look. And sometimes the palm fronds will sort of bend down like that. The trunk of a palm tree is pretty rough. You can make those look rough by making just some cross hatching, some X's through the tops. And then we'll give these guys their own palm fronds, spiky little claw-like things. And the palm fronds can cross over each other. It's a little crazy in there, and that's the way they look. This one looks like could use some little craziness too. And if you remember, we have an edge here, so you could stop your palm fronds at the edge. That's one of the reasons I tend to put a border on, so that I don't have to make up my mind, when am I going to stop drawing? The edge of the drawing tells me, go ahead and stop. I'm not going to see anything past that. You'll notice that I added a little shrub on this side, like I added on the other side. Just some scribbles in there. All right, let's do the same thing over here with the shrub. If there's any other area besides, if you want to simplify your shrubs and you want to emphasize other areas, Now would be a good time. Then I do the bottom. I'm going to go up the side here, but I'm going to wait a minute because this line might still be wet. The ink might be wet, and if I run my hand across it, I'm going to smear it. You see if I'm doing something, see how I'm left-handed, doing something on the right-hand side, it might smear my ink. If you're right-handed going up there, you'll be fine. But if you were trying to do it on the left, you might get into a little bit of trouble. Should be dry enough. Go up the side. I'll go across the top. Do we want to write Happy Holidays now, or do we want to color it in? I'm going to write it now because if you don't have color, or if you happen to like just a line drawing, your sketch can be finished. Okay, next is color. We could lose a little bit of the pencil lines if you're really sure your ink is dry. You could use your kneaded eraser and bring out the big guns and use the good eraser at the end of your pencil. It'll also tell you, once you've erased things, have you gotten all the lines in there? And there might be some lines you've forgotten to ink in. I had put windows over here on that side, but I think I'll leave them out. You can add yours if you like. For me, the really important color is the roof. And if I was trying to be realistic, I would have more of a brick red colored pencil or pen. But I wanted to do this for the holidays and put a nice red roof on it. That might look like a fun holiday card. If you have a colored pencil, just color in those roof areas. I happen to have a red pen, and what I'm going to do is just make some horizontal lines. Actually, they're not horizontal. I'm going to follow the shape of the roof. So it's sort of curving, sort of segmented. It'd be easier just to draw them as curving lines. If I wanted to, see what I mean, I could segment them. If I were being really picky, I would do that. You can draw the sides of those little dormers. If you see the sides, don't cover the front of the dormers. As you see, they're white like the siding of the building. If you wanted to take your black pen and draw, just sketch in little rectangles that are the windows, that's the glass, you could do that. You might find that it gives it a little more character, sort of like a little face. Now to help your roof, this sort of cone shape roof, seem more three-dimensional, give a little more color to the left side. In our photo, the sun's coming from the right, so there's maximum light hitting the right side and the left side's in shadow. So add more tone, more color on that last far left panel. A little more so that the far left has the maximum color or tone. You could also be doing this with a black pen, and then this one has sort of the medium amount. And then don't add anything extra to the two on the left. one way to think about it is add some color to the right, add a little more to the next one, twice as many lines, then more here, and then the maximum amount when you get to the far left. And this part is follows suit. Sometimes we add clouds and things to our sketches, but I'm not going to today because I would like the star to be the star. All right, if you have a green pencil, I have a green pen. Just the red is kind of fun, and a yellow for our star is kind of fun. Very fun. If you had gold, if you have a gold pen, sometimes we have those ones from those gold markers. You could add that. If all you had was red, that would be enough to give your drawing punch and what we were after. And if you have color pencils, this portion is going to be a whole lot easier to color in than using a skinny nibbed pen like I'm doing. And when I'm adding color to the bushes, I tend to scribble like that because there's a lot of round leaves in the shrubbery. Almost done. Don't forget the last thing we always do with our sketches is we want to add where we are and the date. Though if it's a card, you could just leave it at Happy Holidays if it's a gift card for someone, or you could say that it's the Hotel del Coronado. I'm not keeping within the lines, and that's okay. I might want a little more dark at the bottom of my shrubbery. Okay. Hotel del Coronado. It is Coronado. Coronado is a city, so we could put Coronado, California. December 2020.